Hello, this is Dan Farisi, Editor-in-Chief of Commercial Integrator. So happy to be joined today by Omer Brookstein, who is co-founder and CEO of Xyte. Thank you so much for joining me today, Omer. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Dan, for having me.
So let's get right into it. We're seeing the subscription economy pretty much everywhere in the world these days. We're seeing it with Apple Music, with Microsoft Windows, Netflix, etc. You name it, basically. It seems like just about everything has become a subscription. Why would you say the AV industry hasn't so far seemed to embrace hardware as a service or a subscription at this point?
Yeah, well, first of all, Dan, I completely agree with you. We buy everything as a service today. We live in an era of subscriptions. We buy Netflix and AWS and music and even shaving blades and coffee we buy today as a service. But when it comes to hardware in the audio video industry, but in other industries as well, things get more complicated. And it's a good question why we have not embraced hardware as a service yet. And I think you'll agree with me that we have been discussed hardware as a service business models in our industry for many years. But in reality, most of what we see today is really just a leasing. And when I explain that to potential customers and partners, I use the example of Office 365. And when you think of it, when we buy Office 365, we're not buying an Exchange server for 24 monthly payments. We're buying an Exchange or an email service rather than an email server. And while that might sound small, it's a very big difference.
Absolutely. So let's assume that with this just initial conversation we've begun to have, we've at least piqued people's interest, hardware manufacturers' interest in the value, at least potentially, of an as a service approach. How can Xyte help manufacturers manage this transformation? What enhancements, opportunities might Xyte be able to offer that would make the transition a little bit easier or a little bit more palatable for hardware manufacturers who are thinking about the viability of an as a service approach?
Yeah. So the way I like to look at that is, when I speak to connected device manufacturers, once again in the audio video, but other industries as well, what I usually tell them is that they probably have a CRM in place to manage their customer relationships, and they have an ERP in place to manage their enterprise resources. What they don't have is a CDMP, a connected devices management platform, and that's what Xyte is. And essentially, it is an enabling platform or a suite of cloud-based tools that allows hardware manufacturers to cloudify, to connect the devices to the cloud, and introduce this new as-a-service business model. And when you think about the software as a service industry, right? Those tools have been developed over the last 20-some years, pretty much since Salesforce introduced SaaS for the first time. But hardware manufacturers does not have those, or did not have until recently, those same sort of cloud-based tool. And that's what Xyte is exactly all about, right? It is a platform. We're not a hardware manufacturer. We're not a service manufacturer or service company, but we developed that cloud-based suite of tools that allows any other hardware manufacturer, system manufacturer to introduce these new as-a-service business models.
So most AV professionals now, I would say, and I assume you would agree, that they're in the experience business. Our job is essentially to exceed customer expectations, to deliver outstanding experiences. Basically, we're not selling specs, we're not selling gear per se, rather we're selling experiences. How can Xyte help integrators deliver improved customer experiences? That's what integrators seem to be putting at the forefront these days. How can Xyte make that happen?
Yeah, I completely agree on this point as well. It's all about the experience. And when we move to hardware as a service or anything as a service, really, people tend to forget, but it's a different game we're playing now, right? From customer acquisition to customer retention. And we have to make sure that our customers are satisfied and constantly get the level of support they're expecting. And one of the things I'm telling vendors when they develop and connect their devices to a cloud is this is a win-win-win situation, because not only they're creating new revenue streams for themselves, but they're creating new business opportunities for their channels and system integrators. And overall, they're creating a much better customer experience and a much better customer journey for their customers, right? And the platform itself includes a built-in support center. So when a customer has some kind of an issue, we always have some kind of technical issues, they can very easily escalate it directly to the technical support team of the system integrator, and when needed, directly to the technical support team of the manufacturers, and they can resolve issues a lot quicker. Think about it. In the software, this is how things are happening, right? When you have a challenge with Zoom, someone from Zoom can connect remotely and help you troubleshoot the problem. But in the hardware, when you have a problem with the hardware, we have to send a guy on site who will push a new firmware, send the logs back to the office, and come back again 2 days later to try and resolve the issue. All these can now be eliminated or be resolved a lot quicker using our cloud technology, and an engineer can connect remotely to your trouble device on the other side of the ocean, retrieve logs, update new firmware, and help you resolve the issues much quicker, and with the one and ultimate goal in mind, to give a much better customer experience.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, Omer, to share this information with Commercial Integrator and our audience. I think we're going to be hearing a whole lot about Xyte in the months and years to come. Again, so happy to have been joined by Omer Brookstein, who is co-founder and CEO of Xyte. Once again, really do appreciate the time investment to inform me and our audience.
Thank you so much, Dan. It was a pleasure.
I am Dan Farisi, Editor-in-Chief of Commercial Integrator, and please check back on commercialintegrator.com and our various properties for more great content like this. Have a great day.